So welcome everyone. I'm Cindy Myers, and tonight we're going to have a webinar on animals and emotions. And if you'd like more information about my services or how I work, you can uh, look up more about me at yourenergyhealer.com. We'll go ahead. So before we get going, just a little bit about me. I do work with both humans and animals. And tonight's topic will be we're going to cover anxiety again. It seems to be a popular topic. Last month or a couple weeks ago, when we had one of these, I did one on um, what was going on with our pets just that week for the services I provided and the issues that had come up. And so again, this has been a very important topic and a recurring one, and it's natural. But it's all about anxiety. I've had to release a whole lot about of pets' anxieties and humans' anxiety. But tonight we're going to talk about the pet anxiety and how it can impact our energy system as well as, well, your pet's energy system. But it works the same way whether it's for our pets or for us humans. And then we'll have time for demos at the end. But before we get going, in case you have a medical emergency, please call your veterinarian. You really want them involved in determining and assessing what's going on. But what I can do for you is provide energy support so that your pet can release some of that anxiety that they may be experiencing while either because of whatever's going on, but also taking them to the vet can be very anxiety provoking. So we want to get rid of and clear as much of the emotions, the fear-based emotions, so that their natural healing abilities can get to work on whatever's going on with them. So I work alongside what your vet is doing. And for aggressive animals, I do insist that you work with a qualified and certified trainer. And it's even better to get one that's really focuses or is an expert on aggression, because it's just not enough to clear the trapped emotions. We really do need to teach them how to behave once those trapped emotions are eliminated or reduced out of their body systems. It's just not enough just to clear the trapped emotions. We have to teach them a different way of being. So that's where you do need um, where you do need a qualified trainer. And I'm not a qualified trainer. I'm not a trainer. I've trained a lot of my own animals, but so I do have lots of tips and ideas, but you really want to work with a certified trainer. Okay. And again, there's just a little bit about me, which you can read more about that on my website, yourenergyhealer.com, if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about my background. But let's talk about the main topic tonight, which is anxiety. And if you've ever heard of the term chakras, if you haven't heard of them, it's just a word for power systems. It's how we have different power sources. You can almost think of our own electrical grid. We have different power systems that are placed strategically through the community, right? So we have our body community that our power systems are dispersed. And these are just the main ones. There's actually a whole bunch of other ones that are not the main hubs. So we're just going to really cover the main hubs because it gets complicated super fast. Once we start going into the more minor or the individual hubs, because every organ can have their own little power hubs, and it can go all the way down to our individual cells has their own power hub. So as you can see, as you go more microscopically, it gets just a whole lot more involved. So let's not worry about that. Let's just focus in on these main power sources, power systems. And that is incredibly powerful right there, even though they're the main ones. These are the ones we want to get rid of, any of the trapped emotions that get placed into these areas, because it really impacts our entire system. Is one of the things that our society or how we've been taught uh, and to view things is very kind of individualistic. We think of ourselves as digital. It's this or that. It's is it the liver? Is it the X, Y, or Z part of the body that's causing a problem? Is it because we're having this emotion that we have this behavior? So you see the if then and statements are happening here. And what really needs to place there is they're not or statements because we're looking for, well, if it's just this, then that's all I have to worry about. But it's more thinking about our pet body systems or our own as like a mobile. So if one thing goes out of balance, then the other things have to work a little bit harder because we always want to maintain an equilibrium. And that's just true in all nature. Nature wants to reside in a homeostasis if we can, but it can never do that because there's movement always all the time. That's why there's always this nice sine wave curve. And I'm not going to get into that kind of sciencey stuff because I'm a little bit of a science geek because I have an engineering background. But it's also how I see things empathically. So I pick up frequencies. So I pick up those sine waves and the distortions that are created by the disturbances that can come about by emotions like anxiety. And anxiety is a super strong and powerful emotion. And I'm sure everybody's probably experienced anxiety of some type of, probably every day we have some sort of anxiety throughout the day. So our pets can have that too, and it's a really strong emotion. And so when it does, it's triggering that fight or flight response system. And that fight or flight response system can now do a couple, is affecting the body system in multiple ways. It's affecting the physiological system because when it happens, then the digestive system turns down to minimal. It's really going as it operates as little as possible because it's not the system that's necessary in order to fight for survival. And it's a very, you know, really a basic automatic response system when we get triggered. And it's from way back in, caveman days that it gets, our survivability is dependent on it. We have to react. It's a reactionary system that we don't need to, and we don't want to process very put a ton of energy thinking about it. Because if you think about it, if there's somebody running a red light, you don't want to think about it. You have to just react. The same is true for a pet. If something is frightening, if you have a small animal, a small dog or a small cat, one of the predators it has is a large bird, a bird of prey. And I have seen one of these bird of preys pick up a small dog or a cat or little animals. That's their role. So anything that swoops over their head, that's why a lot of animals don't like the top, reach over and want to pet their heads, and they kind of flinch. That's instinctual because guess what? That's the swooping of a bird coming down. So they're very anxious about a movement like that, and it can trigger the anxiety that now they're in that non-thinking part of their brain and they're reacting. And it can come out in different ways. It can come out in, barking excessively. It can come out in, or not so much mewing, yowling for a cat. It can come out in behavioral issues like having accidents outside the litter box, or, having accidents in the house, peeing or pooping in the house. Um, Excessive grooming can be another one that shows that the pet is having a lot of anxiety. There's a whole laundry list of symptoms that are uh, that 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 we can see that they're under the state of anxiety. Okay. Panting, pacing. Okay. They're not comfortable. Uh, they can go hide. Maybe they, instead of that, they just go hide someplace. Those are signs of anxiety. So that's some of the symptomology that we can see, but internally, they're experiencing all sorts of stuff too. So again, they're digestive. So if they have tummy issues, that might be because they're under chronic anxiety and their digestive system just isn't kicking in enough to digest the food fully. And so now they can have physiological issues as well. It can really work on too much adrenaline all the time, if we can't, and maybe they don't even know how to turn on the calming system, okay, because they just are in a constant state of anxiety. Um, and that too can impact their power systems. So again, the digestion is a really important one, because again, if your pet is in constant anxiety, their digestion is not turned on very well, so they're not digesting their food appropriately, so they're not getting the nutrients that they're needed over long periods of time. And what comes out of that is then other medical issues. They can develop a lot of allergies, skin issues, anything of these chronic illnesses that we might be really struggling with. A lot of that originates because they've been in constant anxiety. And it can happen throughout, when it happens, it could be some of this anxiety can get started very young in the age. It can happen in the womb, it can happen during the birthing process, it can happen during weaning, any of these major points that it happens, especially early in life, that can trigger this anxiety habit that it just develops a fear response to everything. So again, any of these negative emotions have a fear response associated with it. And if they live in that state of fear for long periods of time, it can really impact these power systems. So when I sense things, I want to see, is there any distortion in any of these power systems? Because that can give us ideas of what's going on medically, possibly. Not that I do not diagnose, but I can tell where the energy system is off. So we want to work on the whole system, going back to my original thing before I digressed into these other topics. We tend to think that, oh, it's just the liver that's off. Well, no, it's the whole system that's off. What may be emanating in the medical, and that what needs treating is the liver, but really there's a whole system that's out of balance. Another example is if we have a pet that has maybe some kidney issues, they're having bladder infections, anything that's urinary tract area, and it's impacting the kidneys. These are filters. So they're trying to filter out these excessive emotions, right? They have to pee them out, they have to poop them out, they have to, we would try and sweat them out. We need to try and eliminate those excessive emotional emotions that are developed. And if we can't, it's kind of like food calories at that point. It gets stuck in our body, it gets stuck in their bodies. They can't process out all those chemicals, and they build up and build up and build up, and it causes these issues. And it's a system issue. It's not just that kidney. It's not just the liver that's impacted, because now other things are having to work harder. So if there's a distortion in the liver, the flow and energy flow isn't optimum in the liver, guess what? The other filters have to work harder. So now there's more wear and tear on the kidneys and the spleen, anything that's having to filter out the toxins that are in the body. If one thing is out of balance and not working optimally, other things are working harder. So we have to work and clear the whole body system. So a lot of words to say something really quite simple, right? It, but it really takes us out of our normal way of looking at things. So I like the analogy of the mold, because you can kind of see it. If you pull one thing string down, the others go like crazy trying to get it back into into a level thing, right? A level playing field. It wants to work this way, but if one thing goes down, then everything is going like this until it settles down. So, um, so that's what I want to think about when we're working with your pets and the different issues that we have. Yes, I'll clear a specific emotion, but I also am curious and I'm feeling in my body what is happening in these various power centers. I'm feeling them. I'm looking for any distortions in any of those areas that might be working a little bit harder. If we were in person, I would actually be feeling I would feel the distortions with my hands. I could feel it. And a lot of times you can do it. You can just rub your hands really fast together. So if you go like this, it kind of, you can't put them together. It wants to resist. So you know you have energy flowing in your hands. And then just about 6 inches over the body, you just kind of take your hands and you might feel a difference, maybe a temperature change. You might feel something coming off their body that just doesn't feel right. The only thing that might be normal, if you feel a heat or an extra vibration coming off, is if your pet has just eaten, and they are digesting normally. That system is working harder because it should be turned on to optimum because it's working. It's got to break down all that food it just ate, so it's working extra hard right away. The first half hour, 20 minutes, half hour, it's working really hard to digest. So if you rub, do your it's a good practice. If you do the hand rubbing thing and just kind of feel over their body, you're going to feel probably a temperature change, maybe a little bit warmer, or you'll feel that resistance. You'll feel the tinglies going over the digestive system, around the stomach region, around their stomach. So you could feel that energy. It's kind of cool when you do that. You go, oh yeah, your tummy's working good. If you don't feel anything, then we're concerned. Right now we're saying, oh, that feels cold, or I'm not getting any sensation and I should. Now we're saying, well, maybe their digestive system isn't turned on and it should be. So now that's good information. So when I teach people how to do a little bit of energy work, that's one of the things that we look at is this working or is it not? And you can feel things. You can actually feel the distortion in their body. And there's other techniques you can use to see if there's these distortions in these main power systems. And if so, then we can do energy work in those areas and help them get in balance again. And that's our goal, get everything in balance. So what could you do? What can you do? If, yes, I want you to hire me to help clear the big emotions out and get things moving really well. But you know what? There's a lot of things you can do. And I think that's really important to do if you can do, especially if you have a chronic issue, behavior or physical one. If you can do something every day, that's going to be really powerful and most benefit for your pet. So I like to teach you some really simple tips or tools that you can use for yourself on your pet that can do no harm and it can be really beneficial to both of you. Because I know for me, and I know a lot of calls that I get from you all is one of the first things. I just feel so helpless. I don't know what I can do for my pet. I took them to the vet and we're on stuff, but I can just tell they're not feeling well, and it's just so helpless. I feel so helpless. So these are things you can do, and then you don't feel so helpless because you know you're doing something good for your pet, and they typically do like it. So the first thing you can do is breathe. I know it sounds funny, but really, our animals are so sensitive to our energy. And if we can slow down our breathing, get our energy flowing, because you know what, if we're in a worry state, if we're anxious ourselves, then we're little mini radars and we're now transmitting out those emotions. And so if we're worried, then our pet's going, uh-oh, there's something to be anxious about because mom or dad is anxious. And the last thing they need is to be more have more anxiety. If we're trying to help them not be anxious, then we're in a negative feedback loop. So to calm ourselves and to lower our heart rate, which is what they're picking up, breathe. Just take those nice, slow, deep, full breaths in. And I like to add in, and we'll do this in the healing circle after the webinar, is with every breath, I like to add in a higher frequency emotion. And I like to use peace and calm, especially to counter anxiety, because that's what we really want for them, is for them to feel some peace and calm. So I just repeat those words, or I think of something that makes me feel at peace and calms me down. So I tune myself to that. And as I breathe and slow my breathing down, I repeat that in my head like a mantra. And now I'm transmitting out peace and calm instead of worry. Much better, much better emotion to send out to our pet, then they will feel that energy much better. So and then I like to do a very light pet, a light a very, very soft petting instead of a massage. There's times you can do massage, but if I'm trying to calm them down, I actually do a very light touch because it triggers a different system. Again, we're looking at calming the anxiety system. And really what I'm trying to access is their first chakra, which is their survival center. So I want to go into that calming system, which is at the base of their tail. And I might pet down there and do a light pet. I might just keep my hands, do that hand thing that I showed, rub your hands together really fast, and then place my hands out right at the base of their tail. Now they're feeling that as I'm breathing in and doing the peace and calm. So if you do that, and you can do both hands over each other, or you can just, side by side, doesn't really matter, just one hand. Sometimes I'll put one hand there and one hand at the chest. It's kind of more supportive, right? But by doing that, they feel your energy now. You're actually doing energy work. You don't have to know all the various techniques. It's really simple. We all can do energy work. There's nothing super magical about. Yes, there's lots of more details. The challenging part is interpreting the information you receive back. But just to offer it and trust that you're doing something nice, tune yourself peace and calm, rub your hands together, place it on them, and they're going to, if they don't like to be touched, if they're agitated, again, you know what? You can feel the energy several inches away from their body. You can have it away from their body. I'm in Oregon. I work with animals all over the country, all over the world. Time and space doesn't matter. You can actually do this energy. If it helps you to kind of be focused, you can do this. I do that sometimes for myself. If I feel like I need to be really focused on the animal that I'm working on, I'll do exactly what I just showed you. And I'm picturing it going to them. So you don't even have to be in the same room with them. Say if your pet is God forbid, in the ER, it happens and you can't be right there with them, you can do this and you can just send them the love and peace and calm just from home. And then you don't feel so helpless. You're doing something, gets you out of that helpless feeling. And then yes, you just do have to trust that it's working. But I guarantee you they're picking it up and it does help. And it's not going to do any harm, that's for sure. And the last thing I do to help, especially with pets that have long-term anxiety issues, is I like to just stop and really focus in on them. We get really busy and even though we see them and we enjoy them and we're happy to see them as they walk in the room but we're doing 10 other things at the same time, we're not really we're not really focused on them. We're kind of in a mindless state. I would stop. If they come in and they're looking at me or I can see that they're anxious, I actually will stop what I'm doing if I can and just take a couple minutes and just really focus in on them. Do the breathing, slow things down, be very mindful of them, and then I really enjoy the heck out of them. And I do that for myself actually. I don't do it so much for them. I do it for myself if I feel anxious, if I'm feeling off kilter. I'll take those couple minutes and just, okay, I'm going to just forget about what frustrated with the computer technology isn't working. Okay, so I'm going to go hang out with one of my dogs for a few minutes or one of my cats or the alpacas. And I'm just going to just be totally focused on them, feel the joy and the beauty that they provide to me, the world, and just be thankful and grateful that they're in my life. And I'll spend at least 2 minutes doing that. And 2 minutes is very important. 2 minutes it's about that length of time to have the positive emotion chemicals, the gratitude, the peace and calm, those higher frequency emotions. It takes about 2 minutes for that master chef in the brain. It's true for pets, it's true for us. It takes a couple minutes to get those chemicals coursing through the body to act like the mobile and calm down the anxiety. Okay, so it takes a couple minutes to really go through the system and trigger the calming system, which is called the parasympathetic response system, which you don't need to know, but there is a calming system. And what we want to do is trigger that. And so that now we got more of that energy, those chemicals And I don't know all the chemicals. You can look those up if you like, the dopamine and whatever. And we're triggering those chemicals in our body to go instead of the adrenaline. Because a lot of pets that have been under constant anxiety for long periods of time, and it's true for us sometimes too, is we don't even know how to turn on the calming system. It's like it hasn't been used enough, so it doesn't even know how to do it. So that's why the doing the really light petting, the breathing, is helping to teach your pet how to do that, because they may have missed that uh, lesson in early in life, that they didn't learn how to do that for themselves. We may not have learned how to do that for ourselves either. So by learning how to do it for our pets, we might be actually teaching ourselves how to do it as well. So think about that. Again, win-wins. And that's what I love about energy work. When you do energy work for others, it goes through you first to then to the others. So we get the benefit. So that's why I'm hooked on it. I get the full benefit of helping others. So, all right. Hopefully that all made sense. If not, we'll get to questions in a moment. If you need help with your pet and your pet is exhibiting anxiety or some of these various health or behavioral issues, let's get at it. You know, if I've worked with you before, then this is the best package for 15 minutes phone sessions. It's almost like having me on retainer. And because for animals that have a lot of anxiety, you know what, we can clear it, but anything can trigger them, and now they're back up over that threshold of what they can tolerate, and they're exhibiting some of the issues that they've had. Hopefully, we get to a point where the periods where they need help gets longer and longer, but in the beginning, sometimes we need to hit it very quickly to help them stay in that calmer place as quickly as possible, or teach them how to turn on that calming system as often as we can. So in between you doing stuff, we might have to do those 15-minute sessions pretty regularly. And we can get a lot done in 15 minutes. Pets don't have a very long attention span. So 15 minutes, I can actually quite often get through two pets. If you have two pets, we can clear two pets in that 15-minute time period. So we can get a lot done for your pet in 15 minutes. Um, Future events. Have a healing circle this Saturday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. And then next Wednesday is another healing circle. No webinar, just a healing circle, which will be very nice for everybody that might want to come in for that. And then in 2 weeks, we'll do a human topic for a webinar and talk about probably anxiety, because we all are in that boat. And there's no coincidence that a lot of our pets are experiencing anxiety right now. A lot of people are going back into their day world life, going to the office and stuff. They're the routines are changing, and our pets get anxious. When the pandemic first started, I was getting all these calls with people worried because they were home in lockdown, and they were quite anxious about everything, and they were worried about their pets, and feeling their anxiety. And I went, they're okay. It's going to be when you go back to work that they're going to feel the anxiety at this point, and that's coming. I was accurate. So the pets are starting to feel the anxiety of the new changes of people kind of getting back to their normal day-to-day life. And so now the pets are going, where are you going? I want you back home. So now there's a lot of anxiety for that. And people are now having to figure out how to be back around people again. So there's a lot of anxiety about that. I can answer. I can relate to that one. It's being around humans again. All right. So with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and see if anybody has any questions about the topic or any other questions you might have. And I did get some pictures so we can get into the demos, and maybe you have um, questions about what we're doing. Or let's see, who do I have? Pets. Carrie, if you can unmute yourself, I have a picture. When you sent me this picture, It's Carrie. Well, Terry, I'll get to you too, but
Oh, okay, sorry.
Carrie Bennett.
Yes, ma'am.
There we go. Your names do sound alike.
I get Terry all the time, so I get it.
But when you sent me this picture, I thought, why did you send a picture of my dog? I go, oh no,
yeah.
that's not Yogi. He doesn't. Yogi has a really long eyelash that makes him very distinctive, but he looks like Moose. I've had two Great Pyrenees, and boy, does that look like mine.
Oh, they're precious. I just
They
love
are
them.
gentle giants.
Mm-hmm. Oh no.
That is not your dog.
These are
Not,
my
that
those
is
are my
not this
little
dog.
my son just came home, so they're okay. Now this
I
is a
know
little
that
much
bark
better.
is not related to this guy.
No.
So what's remind me their name?
Her name's Juniper.
Juniper. Okay. And how can I help you with Juniper?
Well, we live, I'm in North Carolina and I live kind of in the country. Um, so we will hear random gunshots all the time, just people in the country shooting guns for God knows why. But anyway, she really, really gets upset, like super upset. She also gets really upset with thunderstorms. But the gunshot thing really gets her going. And it can be I'm so sorry, I don't even know if you can hear me, but it can be way off in the distance, but she just loses it. And I don't know what to do to help her.
Okay, so this is perfect on the topic. Some of these, especially with this breed, they're barkers and they're protective of their herd. And so one way they do that is to let the world know that they're there. they're they're going to tell everybody that they're on duty. So if they hear a noise like that, they're gonna woof. That's their instinct. So it's a hard thing to try and change because again, instincts tell me this is my job, this is what I'm going to do, and they're also kind of wired to be quite independent, this breed. So they need to be able to think most of the time when they work. They're they don't have a human telling them what to do. They're out protecting their mind, protect the alpacas or their sheep or whatever their flock is, their herd or flock that they're taking care of. So it's a it's so instinctual. So that's a really hard thing to modify, but we can do what we want to do is help them get out of it faster. And that's our goal.
She typically tucks tail and run when she hears the loud noises. Like at nighttime, she here lately has gotten to where she's an inside girl, but she wants to stay out all night and do the barking, like you said, because we have coyotes and we have a few other things, and she likes to chase the deer, and that's expected. But it just, I guess
this is a different fear then.
It's such a different, it's like so polar opposite of her normal personality. It kind of, I just don't know what to do to help her get out of that state of, and I think I didn't do her any favors because when she was a puppy, she was not in the best environment. So I took her home with me a little too early. She was only 5.5 weeks old. And it just kind of had to happen. And then she went through a stage where I think she didn't know how to act. Like if I went to go pick her up to put her to bed, she would attack me. But when we had all that stuff under control, and she and I now, of course, she's 7, so we're just like best buds forever. But she's always, no matter how many things I could help her with, and I don't want to say correct because I don't really feel like I corrected anything. I just helped her understand that's not what we do or whatever. But it's just that one thing I can never do the right thing for her, and I feel like I'm letting her down or something, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's that helpless feeling again. So
yeah,
this is where the perfect. So we may not be able to stop her from getting scared when she hears the gunshot our goal at this point is to help her get out of it as fast as we can. And so to do that, you're going to do the breathing thing. You're gonna, is she in the house with you? Do you bring her in the house when the gunshots go off?
Yeah, she usually just she makes a beeline for the door, and
Okay.
whether I want her to or not, she comes
Okay.
in. And like for sometimes, like if it's in the middle of the night and a thunderstorm comes, she'll get between me and my husband in the bed and just shake.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
I just let her
Okay.
stay there.
Okay. So I would recommend you look up T-Touch, T-Touch, and look for some YouTubes on how to do that technique. It's like the light petting that I was talking about, but it's a specific way of doing the petting, and there's a lot of different hand positions and all that. But just Google or look up some YouTubes on how to do the basic, just a very basic touch, because that's triggering the calming system. So the more you do it, and I do it on my guys, I'll alternate. I'll pet for a while and then I'll do T-touches. I like to do it when they're already calm. Get that, it's creating the Pavlovian response that, oh yes, this feels really good. Okay. So the more you do it with them when they're calm, when they're just matter of, just throughout the day, normal thing, we're introducing how to do that calming system. Because again, when she's triggered, she's in the reactionary state, the adrenaline's going, she's not thinking. You could tell her, give her commands up the wazoo, and they know how to do stuff. They aren't going to do it because they're not in that mindset at all. They're out of it. They're in that
Right.
fear state. So you can't reach them. But their body knows what that touch means, and without thinking, they go, "Oh yes, I know what that is. I'm going to release those calming chemicals." And you just keep doing, if you can, if she'll let you, just do those calming touches in her body, on her ear, around the tail. I love to do the tail because they carry a lot of their anxiety, their communication in the tail. So if the tail's tucked under the legs, they're showing, I'm scared. Then I try and work that tail, trying to bring it up, because now it creates a body language paradox, because the tail up means I'm confident, I'm happy.
Right.
And when it's tucked under, it's saying, I'm scared. And so now it's going, well, I don't know what to be, because the tail's up and I get this calming system stuff coming in. Well, that feels better. Well, maybe I'll stay with more of the calming stuff. It's more receptive now. You're kind of you're using its own body language, her own body language, to kind of convince her that this isn't scary. You're adding in the
Hmm.
T-Touches itself, which is now releasing those chemicals so they can get out of it faster. The more you do it with them, you can see when I first did it with my golden retrievers, petrified of storms and
Mhm.
thunder and fireworks, any loud noises like that. It would take me, oh gosh, even before I started doing the T-Touch stuff on her, it could take a couple hours to get her out of it. When I started doing T-Touches on her, I got her out of it in 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Wow.
When I started adding in the breathing and the peace and calm, we're getting out of it in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. The other thing I will
Wow.
use with them is an essential oil that I get from Animal EO. It's a company that makes essential oils for animals, and I trust them for dogs and cats and exotic animals. Um, it's a veterinarian that creates it. So that's a company called Animal EO, and their website, I think, is animaleo.info. But I use the Comumile is what I use for my dog. I'll put that down on them. Before I use any oils on an animal, I like to put it on a piece of cotton or something and let them sniff it, because once in a while it does the opposite. But again, be
Wow.
very careful if you're using anything like that on cats. You need to use something that is, recommended by this vet, or a good vet that understands essential oils, because some oils can be very dangerous to especially cats, but also dogs. So that's the only company I trust for putting on my animals. Anyway, that can help. So it's as many tools as I can use on my dog is what I do. So But for you, what you would have on hand, like if you had some gunshots, I would start doing the T-touches. I would do the breathing fully and doing peace and calm. The other thing I do, which you can do, you don't have to be an intuitive, just trust that it works. I tell them in my head, I'd say release panic, because that's what's happening, right? She's having an anxiety attack, panicking. So I'll say release panic. I'll just kind of release panic, and I'm picturing it just kind of leaving the body. And then I say replace with peace and calm, because that's what we want her to feel is peace and calm. But it's important again that you breathe fully as you're doing it. You don't have to be touching if she goes, sometimes they're pacing or whatever. I just keep saying release panic, replace with peace and calm. That combined with getting that T-touch going, and sometimes the essential oils. Now I'm pulling my dog out sometimes in 5 minutes. And she sometimes comes to me when she's scared. She'll say, okay, which she never used to
Yes.
do. She was so out of her mind. She was just looking for a place to hide.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So,
Thank you so
you
much.
do all those tools and you can actually start pulling her out faster and faster and faster. You're not going to
I will
probably
check those things out.
you're not going to probably stop the fear from happening, but you can help her
Mhm.
get out of it faster, and that's important. And hopefully the good news with gunshots is that they don't just sit there all night long like fireworks. That'd be terrible. But
Yeah.
I
No,
do have we
thankfully
have
they do
some
go inside.
yeah yeah yeah. I live kind of in the country myself, so I've got some neighbors that do the same thing. I'm like, oh gosh.
Crazy.
Yep.
Well, thank you
I
so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. The other thing too is we can clear some trapped emotions that help that all those anxiety, panic attacks build up in their system. And so you do want to get rid of that stuff that's stuck in their bodies. And that will help too. We want to get some space in there. And because again, all those trapped emotions get stuck in those power systems and in the tissues. We store our issues in our tissues. So the pets store their issues in their tissues as well, and that can weaken their systems. It can weaken you know their organs. It can weaken their joints. It can weaken a lot of parts of their body. So we want to get rid of some of that junk out of there, and then you have even more space to operate. Thank you for that. Well, as a matter of fact, why don't I do a quick little release for her, if you don't mind? Let me do that. I will release panic. Oh, and because of the early age that you had to take her, that 5.5 weeks, that would tell me her first chakra is a distortion in that first chakra. That that is where, their stability and survivability and their tribe is established. And if there's disruption in the normal way of being weaned, and that's even kind of young to getting weaned and definitely early to be leaving litter mates and moms and all that. Again, may not have been able to have any choice in the matter, but that means there is a distortion in that first chakra. So let me just clear some of it out of. Let me clear panic and fear and unsupported out of that first chakra. And I did feel a nice shift off of that. There's more in there, but we got some room out of there. So you might see if there's anything that happens tonight with those tools, you might see her pull out of it a little bit faster. Right. Well, thank you for sharing your sweetie. She's beautiful. I'm a little biased. Let me see. Great.
They're awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Now, Terry. There we go, Terry. Let me see. I got to find Sophie. There we go. There we go.
She is.
There she is. And you said in your note that she had a stroke a couple weeks ago?
A month ago.
That's-
I was like looking back at stuff from my doctor, and it was March 27th that I started noticing her like losing her balance. There was just something off with her gait, and outside she was okay. But indoors, there was just something off. So it was on and off with it. And, April 3rd was when, oh no, wait, I'm sorry. This is February 27th. Oh my God, February 27th, that started happening. And on March 3rd, Lulu died. And she watched Lulu die. And the next day, Sophie couldn't stand up. She couldn't walk. She couldn't balance at all. She was completely turned to the right. And I'm thinking, and I don't know, it's just what I'm feeling, that she noticed the shift of energy in Lulu. This is her sister. And when Lulu passed away and took her last breath, like Sophie was right there, and I saw something happen to her. It was the energy shifted, something just went on within her. And I brought her to the vet that next day. So that would have been on March 4th. And the vet's like, oh, well, yeah, she might have had a stroke. Like they didn't know. So now, she's still falling over to the right. She can walk on a leash outside. She's fine. She's kind of shifted though a little bit, like she's kind of turned. Her spine is turned. And yeah, I just don't know. There's no clear diagnosis as to what happened. Now, this picture was taken maybe 10 days ago and or 11 days ago, and it's the first time you can see she's got her little feet in front of her and that she's not leaning up against the couch.
Mhm.
Typically she's leaning on something, or she's falling over. I have to carry her pretty much everywhere, unless it's outside. Outside she's focused and she moves forward. So I'm just not sure what's going on.
Okay, well, let's just see what we can clear. And
You want me to get her? She's over here.
it's up to you if you want her.
Yeah, I got her right here so you can see her. Come here, Sophs.
Oh, neck is very tight.
Yeah, it's very tight. Her right, like I said, she's turned to the right. So here's Sophie. And a couple months ago, maybe it was either the beginning of the year, or right after the holidays, she had hurt her back and she had a compressed disc going on. She injured herself jumping, or nobody knows how she hurt herself then either. So I'm thinking also, well, what if that injury had something to do with her? See how her head just turns to the right? This is like she can turn to the left, but it leans to the right.
Okay, well, let's see what we can do. Well, I'm going to clear grief. I wasn't surprised when you first told me what she witnessed.
Yeah. It was the hardest day. My other pups were like watching, but Sophie had a reaction. I saw it.
Helplessness, clearing that. Lack of control, clearing that. Depression, clearing that. Worry, clearing that. Abandonment, clearing that. Vulnerability, clearing that. And I'm gonna switch to the chakras too. Is that's oh wow. Just felt the flutter in the heart. So let me go there first. I was gonna go to the first chakra, but I'm being told to go to the heart chakra. So I'm gonna clear distortion out of there. Is that heart grief out of there? Now go down to the root chakra, clear sadness, unsupported, another abandonment. Oh, yeah, really jammed up going up and down the spine. A lot of just very stuck energy. So I would, well, I know you're doing Reiki on her. You mentioned
Yes,
you're doing
and-
daily
and
Reiki. So I would
sometimes-
keep doing that.
Okay, yeah, and I can tell when she's like, not today. You know, she looks like, please just leave me alone. Give me some space.
Well, yeah, sometimes we release a whole bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
And remember, doing Reiki or any of that energy work, we're breaking up trapped emotions, trapped junk energy. The body has to process it out. So, yeah, she can say, not enough. I need to process
Right.
this out.
So it's like
So, give me a
once-
break.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
So, just keep listening to that. But then next day, if she's willing, go ahead and do it again because she needs help keeping that energy flowing. It's just really jammed up in the back, neck area. We got a little bit moving, but it's just feels very cold energy. So that to me, there's not a whole lot flowing. Usually by now I would have gotten more shifts. Um, yeah, it's really I would focus in the root chakra, and I'm feeling it also in the heart chakra. So
That's good to know.
you can focus a lot in those two regions. Of course, you want to balance everything, but you
Yeah.
might have to do a little extra in those. What I would do sometimes when I feel a bigger distortion in those areas, I'm getting the chills, so pay attention.
Yeah.
Is spend a little extra time on the root and then go up and then spend a little extra time on the heart, then go back from the beginning and then go and rebalance everything.
Right.
Okay, so just kind of,
You feel that the walks are okay for her? Or
yeah,
am
I think it's
exhausting
no, I think that's a good idea. They need fresh.
10
I think
minutes?
the movement is, she needs to keep moving, move it. If she's not moving it,
Some
it's
foot
going to just get
muscle
more
memory.
stuck. She's going to
Yeah.
get more stuck energy. So you want to keep her
Okay.
not take long walks, but if she can, and because she's walking better outside than inside, definitely, because for whatever reasons, she's forgetting that, oh yeah, I feel decrepit. The fresh
Yeah.
air, and the distraction of being outside, she's forgetting about it. So there's something emotional going on too, that if she can turn it off like that and on, and maybe
Yes.
clear something in the house, because maybe she's remembering the spirit of.
Lulu.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So coming in the house, she's going, oh yeah, I remember, and that was scary and sad.
It was.
And
Well,
gets
thank you
tense.
so much.
You're
She's
welcome.
looking at you now instead of to the right.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, the neck's a little better, but it was pretty tight. And now it's
Yep.
going off. So yeah.
All righty.
All right, let's see. I have is Ann on? Ann.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, I have Tina. I think you wanted me to do Tina, correct?
Yeah, Tina was one of my first fosters, and we placed her about 4 years ago. And I knew that the lady was older, and we always said, if she gets to a point where she can't keep her anymore, she can always come back to me. So 4 years later, and she's getting some dementia, and now she's in a wheelchair. And so I took Tina back, and I just wanted to see what you're feeling from her. She seems good to me. She's a
Mhm.
sweetheart. So,
Not biting you?
you know,
Oh, thank
I
goodness.
started,
Thank
I
goodness we
started-
got one that isn't a biter.
She's not a biter, and she's so sweet. And I said, you know what? I think when my rescue group first started giving me dogs to foster, they gave me the really nice ones. And then as the years have progressed, they've seen that I take the difficult ones.
Uh-huh.
So she's one of the first ones who's just a sweetheart. So you may,
Is
yeah,
she-
I don't know that you'll feel much from her because she's a sweetie pie.
Is she going to stay with you or are you
No,
going to try
no,
and
no,
replace
no,
her?
I will find a home for her. She's 12 years old now
Okay,
and
so
needs some
that's
dental
important to
work.
know.
Yeah, she
So,
needs some dental work really badly, and we will look for it on a loving home, and it should
okay.
be pretty easy to find.
Okay. A little confusion, so I'm going to release that.
Hmm.
She does, she thinks she's missing her person a little bit, so that's
Mhm.
normal. Um, she also said her person's missing her, so she's a little mm, not just sad, but she feels like maybe a little failure. So I'm going to release that because
Do
she
you
feels
know,
her job, she got taken away from her job of taking care of her person.
4 years ago, you did a thing on her with me? I'm remembering this now. And she was having a hard time with the separation from me. And you suggested, and I did, talk to her and tell her that she's got a new job now, and her job is to take care of Glenna, and that's what she's there for. So bingo, that's exactly what you're picking up.
Ah, okay. So yeah, so there's some discouragement and failure that shouldn't have been. She thinks she should still be with her person because her job wasn't finished yet. So I'll let her know that it is. She did a really good job. We'll let her know that she did a wonderful job taking care of her person as long as she did, but that others have to take over now. Two-leggers have to take over caring for her. But she did very well. And that now you're working on finding her another person to help. So it kind of feels like she needs a little break. I know you'll find her a good home, but she just kind of, I think her emotions are a little raw. Even though she's still sweet, she's acting sweet because that's who she is. But it's she's grieving the loss of her person. And so just sticking her in a home right away and expecting her to have another job right away is kind of like asking a lot of her. So, you know, I don't know how long it'll take, but it may only be a week or two, but just be aware that right now she's just kind of, she needs to process being sad about losing her person. But I would do the same thing when you find her the next person to take over. Said she got a new job and she's going to do really well with it.
Yeah, I'm in no rush to find her a home and give her a few weeks to relax, and
Yeah, she just needs it feels like she needs a little decompression.
no problem. I
Yeah.
can
But
totally
if it gets too
understand.
crazy in your house, then move her.
Well, that's the other thing. Sometimes the stress in this house doesn't do a dog.
Right, right. So it's a balancing act. Is if the others are acting out, that's not helping her either. So,
Yeah.
so I know you have a balancing act. And again, and she's pretty resilient as long as we clear and help her understand what's going on. So, but yeah, she's missing her person. I don't know if it's ever would be of any benefit to go visit them. I don't know if that's even possible, but She might
Well,
like,
I just picked her up a few days ago, so this is all very
oh, it's
new.
all very new. Okay, so just, yeah,
Yeah.
just give her a little, yeah, even, it may only be a week or two, but she just needs a little time. You know, our pets they love us a lot, so stuff happens like this, so it's harder for them because they don't understand why. That's that they all of a sudden they're just gone. It's like what? So
Mhm.
it's a little confusing for them, the changes. But we explained it to her, so I think that'll help her know that she did okay. But I would say, yeah, just a couple weeks, and then, but keep your eyes open for somebody really nice, because she's
Oh,
got a
yeah,
very gentle soul, very gentle,
she really
very
does.
sensitive soul. I don't know if she'd probably be good with another senior. I don't think she has a ton of activity energy, so
Yeah, she is
somebody
so,
low key.
I forgot how sweet she was and beautiful. I'm just tickled to have her back here.
Well, then enjoy her. You deserve her too.
Yeah, I
After
could
all the
use,
ones you've had, man, you've had some Lulus. Holy moly.
yeah,
See,
yeah.
oh no, now who does Ann getting? What case am I going to deal with today?
This was an easy one,
This
and
one's an easy one. Well,
yeah,
yeah, but it's easy for us, not easy for her.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I was sitting on the couch tonight, and she was sitting on the couch a ways from me, and I just said, I just had this visualization of her coming and sitting by me, and I said out loud, "Come sit by me." No, I just thought it, and she got up and came over and sat by me. So it really does work.
It does. Of course, they also ignore us. So, but she's also just she's very tuned in. She's a very tuned in dog. Your other ones are so in their fight or flight response system, they don't hear that as well.
Yeah.
Because when we're in the fight or flight response system, we don't hear anything. Kind of like Carrie's dog. When she's in a scared state, you could talk to her and give her commands, and she's not going to hear you. But when they're in a calm state like this, you can use your I think to them. I think peace and calm. I think what's going on. And it's okay if you use your outside voice too, but always add in the thought part, just mind to mind, because animals get a vocabulary. They learn a few words and then they don't, they're trying to figure out what other words sound. They're so focused on finding another word that they can make sense of because they're here, cookie, wah, 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 wah. And they're looking for what else do I have to do to get the cookie? So they're, but if I think to them what's about to happen, that they get. They get it. That doesn't mean they're gonna always do what I asked them to do, but but they get it.
Mm,
All right, so we're
thank
at a little
you.
past the top of the hour. Yes, thank you everybody for sending in your pets. And Sonia, I see your note in the chat box, so we can include Leo in the healing circle because I know you usually stay on. I'm going to end the